Señores, lo mejor de la guerra civil entre Donald Trump y Elon Musk no es solo que sean los dos peores hombres de Estados Unidos, sino que también se están arrastrando con sus esbirros más ridículos en un conflicto. Actualmente están atacándose entre ellos mismos y lo hacen hasta en vivo, perdiendo los estribos públicamente. Y eso es exactamente lo que ha sucedido recientemente con Stephen Miller, quien al parecer por primera vez desde el escándalo de su esposa relacionado con Elon Musk, se atrevió a mencionar su nombre, solo para atacarlo directamente y sin filtros. Antes de mostrarles este colapso, amigos, en cámara con Stephen Miller, empecemos por el origen de esta furia, y fueron los brutales señalamientos que hicieron los demócratas en contra de este presupuesto desastroso.
On this point of tax on tips, as one of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips, I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that tax, a little bit of the fine print there. The cap on that is $25,000. While you're jacking up taxes on people who make less than $50,000 across the United States, while taking away their SNAP, while taking away their Medicaid, while kicking them off of the ACA and their health care extensions. So if you're at home and you're living off tips, you do the math. Is that worth it to you? Losing all your health care, not able to feed your babies, not being able to put a diaper on their bottom in exchange for what? This bill is a deal with the devil. It explodes our national debt. It militarizes our entire economy, and it strips away health care and basic dignity of the American people for what? To give Elon Musk a tax break and billionaires the greedy taking of our nation. We cannot stand for it and we will not support it. You should be ashamed.
Mientras los republicanos tratan de meter esta monstruosidad como si fuese una bendición para el pueblo estadounidense, la verdad, señores, es que solo beneficia a 86 multimillonarios. Y lo más absurdo de todo es mentir sobre el tema de las propinas, que no van a estar grabadas y que eso va a salvar el dinero a la gente común. ¿Es en serio, señores? ¿Están dejando huecos legales solo para que los de Wall Street escondan sus ingresos como si fuesen propinas, evadiendo impuestos? Y al mismo tiempo están recortando Medicaid, están eliminando, por ejemplo, el programa de SNAP. Amigos, es una estafa. Por supuesto, todo esto nace al servicio de los multimillonarios, incluyendo al mismísimo Elon Musk. Pero ojo, el único multimillonario que se queja del presupuesto, y hay que reconocerlo, es Elon Musk. Y no porque le parezca injusto, ¿no? Sino porque, al parecer, no le da lo suficiente. Para Elon nunca es suficiente, ¿no? Jamie Raskin nos dejó bien claro esta verdad.
Mr. Speaker, I found the preamble to this big ugly bill. We the billionaires in our king, in order to deform and sicken our union, establish injustice, ensure domestic servility, weaken our people's defenses, undermine the general welfare, and reserve to ourselves and our posterity staggering debt servitude for eternity, do hereby instruct the Republicans in Congress to strip 17 million people of their health care, increase co-pays, deductibles, and premiums for everyone else, cut 42 million people off of nutritional assistance, increase the national debt by $4 trillion, trash renewable energy systems, increase our electric bills for the carbon kings, all to weaken and destroy the Constitution of the people of these United States of America. Please include this preamble in the legislative record. I yield.
Así es, señores. Elon Musk, al igual que este presupuesto, obviamente quieren quitar tu salud, tus derechos, tu dinero. Todo para poder financiar su próximo cohete que probablemente explote en la plataforma de lanzamiento. Así de ridícula es esta situación. Cuando Stephen Miller fue interrogado sobre esto, explotó en vivo. Después de todos los escándalos que actualmente lo rodean, al parecer decidió descargarse contra Elon Musk en televisión nacional.
Stephen, I'm going to ask you what I just asked Secretary Bessent about Elon Musk's threat today and yesterday to primary Republicans who campaigned for fiscal restraint yet voted for the big, beautiful bill. He is furious for a lot of reasons, but is mostly citing the failure to rein in costs and spending. Your reaction to this tonight?
Well, this is the largest spending cut, Laura, in American history. Think about what's in this bill. The largest tax cut and reform in American history. The largest spending cut in American history. The largest welfare reform in American history. The largest reduction in federal spending ever achieved in a single bill. And then it also includes the most robust, comprehensive border security and immigration enforcement package we've ever seen. One that will allow us to deport millions upon millions of invaders. To oppose this bill is to support the invasion. To oppose this bill is to support the continued giveaways and freebies to cheaters and scam artists. To oppose this bill is to support a 68% tax hike on the American public, and it's also to oppose this bill is to support a deprivation of all of the tax benefits that President Trump is fighting to deliver the middle class, like no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. The Senate passed this bill just today, demonstrating that they are fighting for President Trump. They are fighting for his agenda. They are not going to listen to an outside voice that does not represent the interests of the American people or the interests of the Republican Party. And the House is going to rally behind President Trump to pass this bill for America.
Ok, señores, cabe aclarar que todo lo que dijo Stephen Miller sobre seguridad fronteriza, sobre crecimiento económico y sobre clase media es una mentira descarada. Es Stephen Miller. ¿Qué esperaban? Pero lo interesante, ¿no?, es ver esta pelea entre sí mismos. Lo mencioné el día de ayer. Esta guerra entre Trump y Musk es distinta. No es como cuando Trump ataca a un senador republicano cualquiera, ¿no? MAGA también ha elevado a Elon a la categoría de semidios genio. Y ahora están atrapados. ¿Por qué? Porque no pueden defender a ambos a la vez. Y eso es lo que está haciendo que Trump esté perdiendo apoyo dentro de su propia base. No queda ninguna promesa de campaña que no hayan traicionado. Una vez más, Jasmine Crockett lo ha explicado de forma brillante.
Now, let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here fighting for people in my district because Republicans are willing to sell out working and struggling folks in my district. And frankly, there's two. To appease billionaires and big corporations. Now, I know we've had a lot of talk about how much SNAP costs a day, and the fact is that it's only $6 a day that a person gets when they get SNAP benefits, but we've not talked about the cost of Medicaid. It costs approximately $10 a day to ensure a kid gets health care through Medicaid. So we're talking about to take care of kids, let's say they've got SNAP and Medicaid, only $16 a day. But another thing we've not really put into perspective. We've talked about these billionaires, and we've talked about the fact that this is all to benefit them. No one has talked about how many billionaires we actually have in this country. We have more billionaires in the United States than any other country, but the total number is 83. Last time I checked, we have 435 members in the House, and we have 100 members in the Senate, yet somehow 83 people in this country have more representation than the hundreds of thousands that are about to lose their health care as well as their SNAP benefits. If I just started going through the Republicans that sit on this committee briefly, I would tell you that, Chairwoman, you have 112,000 people that are about to lose SNAP benefits just in your district. I would tell you that it is estimated in your state, as your senators stated, that roughly 651,982 would lose their health care, or I would tell Rep. Fishbach that 67,000 people on SNAP, and in the entire state of Minnesota, 173 would lose their health care. I could go on with these numbers, or I could tell you about the fact that even when we look at my state, and I know that Chip Roy sits on this committee, but he's not here right now, but we have 56,000 people that are on SNAP in his district, but in the entire state of Texas, we have 1.6 million people that may lose coverage. And somehow we have 83 billionaires. And somehow they have 535 people that are speaking up for them every single day to make sure that when they get married for a second or third or fourth time, that they can go ahead and have another $50 or $60 million wedding. Instead of protecting access to these programs. You're cutting them to help billionaires who pay less in taxes than some of the teachers in our country. You claim to want a tax system and budget that helps people, but that's impossible when you're subsidizing tax credits off of the folks who can't even afford to treat their kids or family to a nice meal because federal minimum wage hasn't gone up in 15 years. If y'all want to make a better system, then adopt my amendment number 314 that would require an increase in the federal minimum wage of $15 in order for corporate tax breaks to go into effect. Speaking of wages, this bill doesn't even give the same level of help to people living on tip wages and working overtime just to put food on this table as it does for Trump's billionaire buddies. In fact, the bill only allows no tax on tips and overtime until 2028, and we've talked about this. Listen, this is a joke. This was nothing more than a campaign scheme. This was about saying, you know what, I'm gonna make this promise to you. And we can talk about the fact that there have been a lot of promises made, yet a lot of promises broken. In fact, that was one of the reasons it seems like that, you know, Senator Tillis has decided that he's done and he's gonna get out because he understands that there's nothing but broken promises that are being made. Broken promises that look like, say, I'm going to deport the bad guys only, and then we end up with children with cancer or Americans or undocumented taxpayers that contribute more than $100 billion in taxes. Those are the ones being thrown in cages and sent to other countries. Or we look at the fact that there was a promise made and broken that Doge was supposed to be the magic trick. Now Elon is being threatened with deportation and the cancellation of his own contracts, which historically have been estimated at a whopping $38 billion after he decided that he was going to spill the tea about the Epstein files. And frankly, the truth is that we know that we could cut a lot of those contracts to Elon, but somehow that hasn't been done. Instead, we, the American people, have been left with the hefty tab of incompetence by Doge and feeling extremely vulnerable. In fact, there was a Doge employee who was fired, and I appreciate this man, but truly, transparency and truth has no place in this particular government. This former employee of Doge says that during his short time embedded with the Department of Veteran Affairs, he did not find levels of waste, fraud, and abuse that he had expected, and it was pretty surprised, actually, at how efficient government was. I will wrap up by saying this. I don't really understand what it is that y'all plan to go back and tell your constituents. I'm glad that some of y'all decided to show up, but the reality is that you have sold your constituents out for 83 people in this country. And each of our districts should have approximately 766,000 people. How is it that you can explain that we still are running up the credit card and we have nothing to show for it except for the fact that we won't have food on the tables and we won't have health care? And with that, I will yield.
Pues bueno, este presupuesto, señores, es un regalo para los multimillonarios y es una puñalada por la espalda para todos los demás. Cada promesa que Trump hizo, cada palabra que vendió durante su campaña, le ha roto solo con este proyecto de ley. Y lo más, digamos que indignante, ¿no?, es que muchos republicanos lo saben perfectamente. Y aún así muchos lo apoyaron. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, dale like, compártelo con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.